Hey guys, welcome back to RIPP Superchargers, RIPP powered Pentastar in this 300C. Stay tuned. Hey guys, so welcome back to RIPP Superchargers. Today's a pretty exciting day. Why? Because we finally got a 300S on the dyno. This one here is powered by a Pentastar 3.6, and as you know, we have been doing the 3.6 cars. Now this vehicle follows in the legacy of the Challenger, Charger, and now 300C. This car was here previously. We did test it naturally aspirated, and naturally aspirated laid down a pretty good number, somewhere in the 240s. So essentially, we know that the vehicle follows basically the horsepower that all the other vehicles are doing as well. You can see in some of our video catalogs, if you look back, you'll see that we've done a lot of before and then after, and we end up at a pretty good number, and we're going to see where this one ends up too. Now, as you know, we are pretty much the 3.6 liter supercharged Pentastar experts. We don't want to say experts, but we've been doing it for quite some time. The first supercharged or forced induction Pentastar was right in our facility here, where we supercharged a Jeep, and we've got about 7,000 of those on the street right now, so we know that they're very reliable. This vehicle does have an 8-speed. It's a little bit newer. It's a 2015, and a lot of you were wondering how it would do versus the NAG via transmission, which is the 5-speed of the older generation, and we've tested plenty of Chargers and Challengers with that 5-speed, and we know that they're very reliable as well. So those of you who are concerned about high mileage, this vehicle has 57 or 58,000 miles on it, so it's considered a higher mileage car. There are much higher mileage cars out there. As a matter of fact, one of the first ones we ever did had upwards of 90,000 miles and is still running around today, and that's now 2 years ago. So the 3.6 has proven itself very, very strong and stout, and so have the transmissions, even at the power levels that we're able to put down. Some of these vehicles have made as high as 450, 470 horsepower, not necessarily on our camera, but we have clients who are out there pushing some of the limits. Now, we don't know what the limits are in terms of braking, but we do have clients that are bringing them up to that horsepower level, and they are running them around. At RIPP Superchargers, we're a little bit more conservative, so when we release these kits, they're generally around 420 to 430 horsepower at the rear wheels. Now, these kits do come complete. In terms of a kit, what you're going to get is a full supercharger system, which includes injectors, which includes map sensor, blow-off valves, piping, an intercooler, a supercharger, an air filter, and basically all the components that you need to run the vehicle right out of that first install. Now, those of you with an earlier model, earlier than 2015, will not have to purchase a computer, but those of you with a newer 2015 will have to reprogram your PCM. Now, there are companies that do them out there. We elect to use HP Tuners in this particular program, which is a tuning suite and software, and we provide that for you. Now, you can jump ahead and have an HP Tuners PCM already installed in your vehicle, and then the sales guys will basically correct your invoice. But that's basically the only thing that you have to supply. One of the other questions that we get quite a bit is, do you need to do any supporting mods like pistons or rods? Nope. So far, we've had a very good run in these vehicles, and now that's going on nearly a decade of not having to do any internal components, which include pistons, rods, or having to pin down the heads like some other people may have to do, or other manufacturers may have to do. We've been very good at keeping these engines together. Can you do a catback exhaust system? Sure, if you would like to do a catback exhaust system. We haven't tested all of them to know that you're going to gain any horsepower or lose any horsepower. So basically you could purchase it around sound, so don't get something too loud, because then they sound a little, junky. You don't want them to sound like that. These vehicles are really cool, and they have this sort of muscle car kind of thing. So in our opinion, and in my opinion, you don't want them to sound too raspy like a Honda. Okay, so that being said, this vehicle is bolted down, and it is ready to rock and roll. We're going to make some noise, and we'll let the dyno do some talking, okay? So I'll be right back. Right. We do a little max power. Get rid of this ugly pass there. There we go. Bah, 431.9 horsepower at the rear wheel and a solid 370 pounds of torque. I mean, that is absolutely 100% stellar power. Today is a rainy day, the air is a little damp, so, you know, naturally, usually when you're dynoing cars, you could get a little bit less horsepower on a damp day like this, but nonetheless, the vehicle banged it out. So we're up that solid 200 horsepower that we've been sort of carrying over from all the other projects as well. So when we looked at some of the Chargers and the Challengers, we were bringing those cars in at about 226, 230 horsepower, 240 horsepower at the rear wheel, and they were leaving here with a solid 420 to 430 horsepower, and this vehicle did exactly what we expected. We expected to gain that solid 200 horsepower at the rear wheel. Now remember, when we're testing horsepower at RIPP Superchargers, we're actually testing it at the rear wheel. That is brake wheel horsepower. The manufacturers typically, they advertise a much larger number, but that's only at the engine. So when you're buying a car, it's not exactly transparent. They're saying, let's say, a 300 horsepower car, but that 300 horsepower actually represents the engine by itself at the crank without the transmission and the rear wheels and some of the accessories. So what we're doing here, believe it or not, at the rear wheel is nearly 500 at the crank. So you're driving around basically 392 power, and that is super impressive out of a 3.6 liter. And naturally, all the guys who now have them, there's over 100 kits out there, they're giving us some crazy good feedback. There are plenty of reviews online, so if you're on YouTube, watching this video here, you can see some of the other stuff that independents are testing as well, and you'll see that there's guys, going to the track, and there's even a guy who beat a Demon, and the circumstances are what they are, but it is a fair up race. The Demon just couldn't put the power down, and our 3.6 liter beat him fair and square. Now, we do love social media, so we'd like for you to engage. If you have any questions about this vehicle or any of our other products, please, comment down at the bottom. And if you like what it is that you're seeing and how it is that we're displaying it to you, please hit the subscribe button. That way you can see all the new information we're able to put out there. Now, we are on all the social media, so you can check out the Instagram, the Facebooks, the www.ripmods.com, or anywhere that you can get in touch with us. We're there to respond. We're definitely engaged with our clients, and we do appreciate you stopping by. So please, down and subscribe. Please. Questions. Bye-bye.